Hi, I'm Joel, and I just wanted to show you this productivity app that I've been working on in Kotlin. Right now it's just a console-based app, but the idea is to eventually turn this into an Android app. So I'll go ahead and start by just demonstrating. Before I walk through the code, I'll just demonstrate how it runs. So if we go ahead and hit this play button, it's going to compile, and then it's going to run. It will give us, in the console, sort of a series of menus. This productivity app allows you to handle both to-do lists and goals. So let's go ahead and start off by making some to-do items. Right now we don't have any, but if we go ahead and press 4, we can add a few. So let's say one of the things we want to do is learn to code. And then maybe we'll add another one where it's get that paper. And then maybe we'll add one more, and that's profit or something. Who knows? Anyways, we can show all of our to-do lists that or all of our to-do items by pressing 1. We can go ahead and mark one of them as complete. Pressing 5, we'll go ahead and pick the first one. Let's say we did that one. Then if we show them all again, we'll see that learn to code is checked off. We can also sort of filter so that we only show the completed ones or only show the incomplete ones. If we go ahead and press 7 to exit, then we can go back and I can show you some of the goals functionality. So the goals here are meant to be kind of special. There's a special type of goal that we can add. If we press option 1 here, we can add either a count-based goal, which is just something that you sort of decide what you want your goal to be working towards and you sort of count it up yourself, or a to-do list based goal, which means your goal is to check a certain amount of things off of your to-do list each day. So let's go ahead and make one of those. The goal is, I don't know, be productive. And the to-do list items that we want to complete per day, we can specify that number here. Let's say we want to just do 2, to be a little bit realistic. Then if we go ahead and show all of our goals that we've made, which is just 1 right now, then we will see that we've got our be productive goal here. Now it already went ahead and looked at our to-dos and noticed that we've completed 1 of those to-dos today. So it's 50% complete. We're already halfway done with that goal. We can go ahead and add another goal here to demonstrate that we can just do a regular count-based one, like, I don't know, do some push-ups. And what type of progress are we counting? We're counting reps. It's not like the amount of time that we're doing or anything like that. It's the number of reps. And how many reps would you like to complete per day? Let's say we're going to try to do 50. And then we can go ahead and show them all again, and we'll see that we haven't done any of our reps yet on that. Right now there's no way to manually increment this number for those count-based goals from the console. That feature may come later, but it may not. Like I said, this is eventually going to be an Android app, and it's more ideal to do that from a touchscreen user interface than a console, like all of this. But we go ahead and exit just to show you that little progress thing. We'll go back into our to-dos. We'll go ahead and check off one more. Let's say we finished the second one, and then we'll, just to confirm, yep, we've learned to code and we've got that paper. So we'll go back and we'll exit, we'll show our goals, and if we show them all once more, we will now see that our be productive goal is 100% complete. We have been productive today because we checked 2 items off of our to-do list. So let's go ahead and dive into the code to see how some of that works. So starting from the top, we'll kind of work our way from the top down. At the top, in our main function, all we have is a simple infinite while loop that's going to first, it's going to create a user interface object from this to-do UI class. On that UI object, it's going to just call its display menu function and then do menu operation, which allows the user to pick an item off the menu and do whatever code is associated with that. And then update, which is just a wrapper method to make sure that the logic of like the goals and whatnot, all of that gets updated every time there's a user interaction. So we'll go back into this UI function. We've got a little menu or a type alias here just to assert that a menu function is referring to just an anonymous function. This is one of the ways that I'm kind of trying to use both functional programming constructs and object-oriented programming. So we've got our UI class here. It holds a to-do list, which is this class over here, and it holds a goal list, which is this class over here. I'll go a little bit more in depth on those later. First of all, we're going to take a look at these menus, however. So in here we have yet another class called menu, which holds a list, or rather an array list of these menu operation classes. And these menu operation classes are, they hold those menu functions I was talking about earlier, just a simple anonymous function. It'll also hold a description along with it. This way it can sort of programmatically list themselves out all of the different menu options for a menu. That's what's happening here in this render function. It will go ahead and for each operation in its list of operations, it's going to list it out, listing its ID, its description. That way the user can then input which number of the menu item they want to execute, and it will call the proper code for that. That's what's happening here in this execute. It's going to pick the operation you'll pass in the user's choice into this function right here, and then it will invoke the function associated with that menu choice. Sort of a little bit of a roundabout way of doing things, but it makes making these menus and maintaining them and updating them a lot easier, because we can just sort of declare them up here. We just declare the, for example, the menu associated with all of those to-do list items is right here. It's just an array list of all of these menu operations. So all we have to do is make a menu operation, give it a title, and then put whatever code we want to here in this lambda right here. And that way it'll automatically appear as an option with a number and code attached to it. So the first option will display all of the items in that to-do list. Then there's one here that filters based on if they're completed, filters based off if they're incompleted. These are just I think this is just an enumeration I made to it just determines for the sake of that function which ones it's going to filter out, which is actually right here. That's kind of a good segue, a good transition into how I'm so more of the object-oriented constructs of this. So I've mentioned that there's a to-do list class that holds a bunch of to-dos, and a goal list class that holds a bunch of goals. However, they both ended up sharing a lot of code, so I decided to put them together into an abstract class called productivity list. So that way some of the code that's not unique to the difference between to-dos and goals is encapsulated right here. So for example, they both need to be able to display their entire list, and they both need to be able to filter their entire list based on if they're completed or incomplete, things like that. So it will do, it's got this display function so that both to-do list and goal list have access to that. But here's some of the things that are different. So for example, to-dos, you should just be able to mark them as complete, whereas goals have to be like incremented. You have to work towards them. So that's one thing that's different here. Is this function is specifically for to-dos. This way, the UI class only needs a reference to the to-do list, doesn't need a reference to every single to-do object. That way, it will call this mark to-do function on the to-do list, and it will perform the proper lookup based on that ID, and will tell it whether to mark it complete or incomplete. So that's what's happening there. That's just one example. There's more things I could go into with the difference between the to-do lists and the goal lists, but I also wanted to emphasize a similar abstraction that I did here with, it's over here in task. So similarly, between to-do lists and goal lists, I found there was a lot of shared code between just to-dos and goals. Not quite as much, as you can see here. All they share is this abstract class here, which just both of them are able to be marked as completed, and both of them are going to have an ID. So I went ahead and put those as its own abstract class, and that way both goal and to-do both inherit from this task class, or they both implement the abstract class. So additionally, within goal, since it's got some of its own behavior here, but you'll notice it's also an abstract class, which means if you remember that I said there's two different types of goals that you can make. You can either make one that's based on your to-do list and one that's just based on you counting something. This one right here inherits from goal. So a to-do goal is one subclass of goal, and then count goal is another subclass of that. These are built, like it knows which one to build based on this enumeration right here. And as you can see, I may eventually add an ability to have like a time-based goal, something where rather than tracking how many like reps of some, like for example reps of push-ups, it could be the amount of time you spent working out. Again, a feature that's better implemented in the app when you can actually close the app, keep your timer running, and come back to check your progress, things like that. So yeah, there's more that I could dive into, but that sort of is a high-level glance at what this productivity app is meant to do and how it works, and also showed you some of my efforts to basically separate the logic of just the objects themselves versus the interaction with the user because of this whole UI class with all these menu operations. That way, this class will pretty much be the only thing removed when this eventually becomes an Android app. Everything else, all of this logic is reusable in the Android version of this. So I'm very excited to see where I'll take this project. Before I try to make it into an Android app, I'll be trying to integrate a cloud database with it so that it uses Firestore to store data. Right now it's not doing any storage. As soon as I close out, it loses everything. That's not very useful, but we intend to make this thing useful. Thanks for watching.